last week. He should be back to full duty. For the Redskins, wow, it's tough to look around and really like any of the plays, but I will say this, and this is how you view these players. Alfred Morris, you view as an RB2, RB3, capable of 135 all-purpose yards and 1 TD. You view Deshaun Jackson as a high wide receiver 3 and Pierre Garçon as a low wide receiver 3, and that's how you consider him with your other players. Giants at home, Keith.
The 10-3 Denver Broncos travel to the 8-5 San Diego Chargers. This game is a must-win for the Chargers. It really is. Think about it. If they somehow beat the Broncos here, then the Broncos fall to 10-4. The Chargers go to 9-5. It's a one-game race for the AFC West right there. That being said, the Broncos have this. They're giving up 72 rushing yards a game. And I know that the Chargers don't exactly run the ball all that well, but couple that with the 13th ranked passing defense. The only knock against the Broncos defense is that they do give up points. They're the 16th ranked scoring defense. So. And the Broncos have some injury questions here. Julius Thomas is questionable. He's been practicing. C.J. Anderson today did not practice. Don't know where that came from. So they do have some questions here. The Chargers started out the season on a roll. We're playing very well. They have been a little inconsistent. This is a home game. I just don't see any reason how I can pick against the Broncos with this. Not so much because of Peyton Manning, but because of that defense. I'm taking the Broncos on the road.
Keith, you hit the nail on the head. The Broncos have both their offense and their defense going for them in their favor. But I will say that the Chargers at home, that's a tough play. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers pulled out this game. I do think that this is a high-scoring game. The last time these two teams met, both Peyton Manning and Phillip Rivers tossed three passing touchdowns, so both of them are obvious must-plays this week, including their wide receivers, Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, and Julius Thomas for the Broncos, and Keenan Allen and Antonio Gates for the Chargers. In terms of the running game, Ryan Matthews is not a great play, as you mentioned, based on the stats. In terms of rushing, it's the number 2 rush defense. So you need to try and avoid Ryan Matthews if you can. C.J. Anderson, he didn't practice today, but let's see how he does. Hopefully he'll be fine. If not, then Juwan Thompson becomes an automatic pickup and play. This is an offense that seems to lend itself to a strong running game, and so far every running back that's been in it has generally, seemingly done well. C.J. Anderson is the one that has excelled, but he seems to be the exception to the general rule. In any case, I'm not going to mess around. I'll take the Broncos on the road, but don't be shocked if it's a Chargers upset.
The Jets and the Titans, both 2-11, face off each other. And the only drama that there seems to be in this game is, will the Jets play with any sense of pride and try to send Rex Ryan off into the sunset with at least a couple wins, more than what they already have? Look, kids, this is going to be a mess. This whole game is going to be a mess. Zach Mettenberger is out, which means that you get Jake Locker once again at quarterback. The Jets, as much as I just ripped on them, they play pretty good defense. Decent defense. They give up some points, partly because their offense doesn't do anything, so they're on the field an awful lot. They run the ball. They can extend the clock. I am not believing in Jake Locker or this team at all. I'm picking the Jets on the road here. I can't believe I just said that. I'm picking the Jets on the road.
Keith, how can't you believe it? Doesn't it seem to be the logical conclusion after all your research?
Not at all.
Look, here, you have to like the Jets in this game on the road for several reasons. The first reason is the Titans have absolutely no rushing game to speak of. They've been in great matchups. They can't commit to one running back, and none of the 3 running backs seem to put themselves in a situation to thrive. They've lost 2 of their wide receivers, or at least one to injured reserve. One missed last week, could miss this week again. And then they get Jake Locker, who is usually good for a few sacks and a few interceptions. All of that bodes well for the Jets in so many different ways. Plus, it was the Jets that injured him, if you recall. I believe it was last season, over that weird, freaky play where it didn't even seem like Jake Locker was touched, but he ended up getting seriously hurt. So there may be some sort of some syndrome, something psychological behind this. But whatever the case, the Jets are going to win this game. I predict it. For the Jets, you have to love them against a Titans team that gives up an average of 142 rushing yards per game. That is the absolute worst in the league. They give up at least one rushing TD per game. When you look at all the numbers, it's the second most fantasy points allowed and 180 all-purpose yards and one TD. So you start Chris Ivory as a strong RB2 this week. And if you need the help, if you're one of those people that Andre Ellington and or has a situation where you desperately need a good flex play, look at Chris Johnson. In the past 2 games, he's had over 15-plus touches, and he's been able to produce 50 to 100 yards rushing during that time. Look for Johnson to do something similar, and I predict even a score. Consider him a low RB2 in a flex play. And if you are in a pinch on a defense, again, we've got some weird matchups this week where some teams are playing some good offenses that protect the ball well or hardly turn the football over. Take a look at the Jets DST. This is a Titans team that for the next couple weeks should be blowing up the fantasy points allowed to opposing defenses and special teams, so consider the Jets DST for a start if you need the help. For the Titans, the only player to like is Nate Washington. He sort of gets what's left. He's going to be the top wide receiver on that team. But at the end of the day, in fantasy, hopefully you've got better options and you won't have to turn to them. Keith, we're taking Rex Ryan on the road in the Jets. Hail Jets.
We're going to lose so many listeners over that pick.
Jets, 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 Jets.
If you're listening and you have a lineup question of your own, 585-633-7487. That's 585-633-7487 to call with your lineup questions. The San Francisco 49ers at the Seattle Seahawks. The 7-6 Niners, and now there's talk about Jim Harbaugh being traded to the Raiders, and Kaepernick's not this, and dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria. Look, they have not wowed. They've got issues with the 49ers. This game, making this pick, has got nothing to do with the 49ers. The Seahawks are first in defensive passing yards. They're third in defensive rushing yards. They're fifth in points allowed, ninth in points scored, and they're running the ball at 170 yards per clip game in Seattle. No, there doesn't even matter who the other team is. I'm picking the Seahawks.
Keith, I'll take the Seahawks, too. I mean, the bottom line is Seattle's best is in beast mode, and the 49ers just don't have anything left in the tank to go to even remotely challenge them in this game. The 49ers have been struggling now for the last several weeks. In the past month, their offense seems to be in disarray. There's pretty much nobody on that team that I would like to be playing in the fantasy playoffs this week. The only one that I might consider is Anquan Bolden as a low-end wide receiver 3. Otherwise, I would avoid their playmakers altogether in fantasy. For the Seahawks, on the other hand, Marshawn Lynch remains a top start. You know he's going to get the rock. You know he's especially going to get the rock at home. Doug Baldwin is a wide receiver 3. For Russell Wilson, I'm not too hot on him. I mean, the 49ers, they still have sort of the stats on their side. And for me, I think Russell Wilson is more of a benchable player. There's just too many better options other than him this week. But, I mean, if you have to roll with him, you have to. Seahawks at home, Keith.
The Dallas Cowboys at the Philadelphia Eagles, both 9-4, both searching, hunting, beating the snot out of each other for that NFC East crown because Lord knows the Giants and the Redskins are out of it. So it's down to these two teams, and I got to tell you, the first time these teams met on November 27th was not pretty. The Eagles went into Dallas and blew out the Cowboys 33-10. So now it all comes down to whether you think the Cowboys can go into Philadelphia and do the same thing. I'm not so certain about this, although the Cowboys have been lights out on the road. They're 6-0 on the road. That's amazing. That's so hard to do in the NFL. You can't ignore that. They're still running the ball very, very well, 149 yards a game. The Eagles, though, they run the ball equally as well, and they're actually a little better in passing yards, even with Mark Sanchez and an underwhelming Nick Foles before he was injured. I can't pick against the home team in this situation. I just think the Eagles, they execute too well. Even if Sanchez throws a pick or two, they're still going to win this game. I pick the Eagles.
Keith, these two teams, by the numbers on paper, are almost evenly matched. But how does this game get any better for the Cowboys playing on the road in Philadelphia is beyond me. They should be 6-1 at the end of this week. I like Chip Kelly in that offense there in Philadelphia. This is not the same defense as the Seattle defense. We should see Mark Sanchez have another solid game like he did last time around, so you can look at Mark Sanchez as a low QB1. LaShawn McCoy should definitely be active this week, and he should definitely do something for you and your fantasy football team, as should Darren Sproles. In the passing game, keep Jeremy Maclin active as a wide receiver 2. Zach Ertz makes for a tight end play, and Jordan Matthews is a low-end wide receiver 3, as he was before, and hope for that TD score as he had before. For the Cowboys, Tony Romo, top 10 play. DeMarco Murray, top 3 play. Des Bryant, top 5 play. Eagles win.
And the last game, the Monday night game, the New Orleans Saints at the Chicago Bears. Both teams 5-8 in what I like to call now the National Chicago Bears Embarrassment Tour. Another primetime game, another chance to see the Bears showcase their ineptitude. The only good thing about it is that the Saints do not play well this year. See what I did there? They don't play well outside usually, and in the elements, it hampers everything. But the Bears don't play physical enough defense to really throw off any timing or anything like that. This could be a complete crap show on both sides of the ball. Just flip a coin here. I'm just going to take the home team. I'm taking the Bears. Very unenthusiastically, if you couldn't tell.
I know the Saints are trying to make some changes this week in order to fire up the team and reinvigorate the team, get them playing at a high level again. All these changes, though, would have been better had they been done with a game coming up at home in New Orleans, not on the road in mid-December in Chicago when it's 30 degrees or below and there's some snow on the ground. I like the Bears, too, at home. I don't care that they've given up the most TDs in the league. We know they can play against teams that have no defense or have a struggling defense. I like Jay Cutler as a low QB1 this week. I hope to God the Bears give the football to Matt Forte because this is one of his best matchups of the season, and if they can get it to Matt Forte, they will definitely win this game. You keep Matt Forte active on your fantasy team. Alshon Jeffrey without Brandon Marshall there suddenly becomes a top 10 play in fantasy football for this week and likely the remainder of the season, and I like Martellus Bennett to make up for the production that Brandon Marshall that the Bears are losing with Brandon Marshall gone for the season. For the Saints, start Drew Brees. I don't care what happened last week. Start Drew Brees. This is still a bad Bears defense. Start Jimmy Graham. Start Marcus Colston. Start Kenny Stills. And start Mark Ingram. Hopefully Mark Ingram can handle the work in the cold because I think he could really, really have a big game. But I wouldn't count on him more than RB2 for now. Just think of his upside, that there is some good upside there. I'll take the Bears at home, too. And I think this game has more puddles than any others, Keith.
I don't like the way you say puddles. I don't know.
Do I slur it?
It's just me. No, it's just me. All right.
Puddles. Puddles. Yeah. Poodles. Puddles.
All right. We got a minute left. I'm in my semifinals. I need help.
Oh, God. Yes. Help.
All right. Jay Cutler's starting. I'm not starting Eli Manning. Sorry. Le'Veon Bell is starting. C.J. Anderson. All depends on what's going on with his injury status. Odell Beckham is starting, but then I have Julius Thomas and Josh Gordon in my lineup. But I also have Keenan Allen and Michael Crabtree on my bench.
Julius Thomas. Who else?
And Josh Gordon. Wow, I stumped him.
Keith?
Yeah. We're still here. We're all waiting with bated breath.
Yeah, we are still here. Okay, so you have Julius Thomas, you play him, and then who's left?
Josh Gordon.
Josh Gordon.
But I have Keenan Allen and Michael Crabtree on my bench.
Ooh, bench Crabtree, so that gets us down to Josh Gordon and Keenan Allen. I'd go with Josh Gordon,
okay.
But barely. I mean, it's close.
There's that Manziel X factor. You just don't know what it's going to look like.
Yes. Here's the thing. I think both are in line for 80 yards. The question is, can either one of them get a touchdown? Keenan Allen did get a touchdown the last time that the Broncos